Well, this is going to be a very interesting video. As you can tell by the title, Allegiant is now out. It came out March 10th in England. Now, I reread Allegiant last month in preparation for the film. I knew from trailers that the film was going to be incredibly different, but I wanted to refresh my memory anyway on the book, because Allegiant is my favourite book out of the entire Divergent trilogy. I don't know what I went to see in the cinema, but it was not Allegiant. It was clear from the very first trailer that this was not going to be the Allegiant that I know and love, but I gave it the benefit of the doubt. I was like, maybe these changes, just from the trailer alone, they can make work, but nah. The thing with Allegiant as well is that there's so much stuff in the book that you can cut out and that I would be happy with being cut out. So it doesn't even need to be 2 films, apart from the fact that they want to make more money from it. All I can say really in this non-spoilery section is that the acting was a real letdown. It seemed like none of the actors really wanted to be there, and the only one that did was Miles Teller, who plays Peter, and he was given some ridiculous lines. The script was absolutely terrible. But the lines that he was given that were terrible, he made work in the delivery. Most of the time when he wasn't on screen, you were just like, when can we get Peter back on screen? We'll be going to see Ascendant. I believe that's the name for the second one. Again, why they've changed the name for it, I don't know. Maybe they're going to change the ending. It wouldn't surprise me at this point. But I am going to see it anyway, more for completion's sake than anything else. That's all I can say for the non-spoilery section, so if you haven't seen Allegiant yet, go away and watch it and then come back. Okay, so book world. Chicago is modern day. It's the equivalent of going to Chicago like right now. There are even Coca-Cola adverts that are mentioned in the book. That gives you an idea of how pretty much 21st century it is. But in the movie, the world is split into 4 places. You have Chicago, which is what the inhabitants of the city believed to be Chicago. You have the Bureau for Genetic Welfare, which is at the O'Hare Airport. You have the province, which is what basically the Bureau have to report to, kind of like a government. And then you have the fringe, which is kind of the wasteland of the world where the poor people are living, the ones who have like survived whatever it was that destroyed the world. I can't even get my head around why they needed to change what the world is like. Surely it would have had a bigger effect with how many like YA dystopian things that are being turned into films. Surely it would have had a bigger effect if it turned out it's like the equivalent of going outside right now. I also wouldn't have minded the change in a way if they had made it work, if it fit in and made a decent story, which it didn't. Also, it didn't even look real. It looked like a soft kids play center. The ships as well didn't even look like planes. They were like super high-tech spaceships, and they tell the group of characters when they get there to this weird wall thing that opens to let them out that they need to be decontaminated, so they put them on the side of the ship in bubbles. I don't understand. And they're just so cool with it. Like, in the books, there's such a big thing about the concept of flying. Like, it's terrifying to them because they've never been able to fly and they didn't know that you could do that, and they don't think that you should be able to do that. But they're just sat on the side of these ships in these gooey bubble things and they're just fine. Like, Triss at one point even goes, "This is cool." Why would you not be freaking out? The whole genetically damaged, genetically pure thing was not explained enough in a way that made sense. And this isn't even coming from me having read the book. I went to see it with people who hadn't read the book and they were incredibly confused. All you really got the idea of is that Triss was the ultimate pure one because she was dressed in white for some reason the whole time. And they had barcodes put on them when they first arrived. Now, I actually liked the idea of the barcodes because there's this moment when they're in a more abandoned area of the airport, Tris and Four, and Four takes hold of Tris's wrist and sees the barcode and sees that it's like full and it's perfect, and he turns over his wrist and looks at his own wrist, and he's got one of the bars missing, which shows that he's damaged. And also there's areas that genetically pures can get into but genetically damaged can't. Like at one point he tries to activate this lift and it doesn't work, but when Tris scans her barcode it works and lets her do it. And that was pretty much the only part of the film where you kind of saw what Four was going through, because I don't like Four, but in the books he has such a big identity crisis because he knew he was Divergent, but suddenly he gets to this place and he's told he's not actually Divergent enough, he's just broken. And he tackles that quite heavily, and it creates quite a big divide between Tris and Four in the books, but in the film that just really wasn't translated at all. The characters in general just seemed too okay with everything that was happening. If you'd grown up in a particular world with particular ideals and you found out that all of that was a lie and it was just some kind of experiment, and then you get taken to the headquarters of this place and you were able to see like cameras everywhere of people like watching what's happening in the city, and you found out that all these people in this building have been watching you since you were born, you would be freaking out. But they're just so cool about it. They act like there's some kind of celebrities finally being around their fans. Peter even goes as far as to say, nothing creepy about that. Everything is creepy about that. I would be freaking out. They just seemed to be no adjustment period whatsoever. They just seemed to be absolutely fine with everything. Tris is going off and doing her stuff with David, and Four gets assigned to Nita. Now Nita in the books is, for me, quite a big character because she's what creates the big rift between Tris and Four. Because on one hand you have Tris being fed certain information by David, and then on the other hand you have Nita feeding completely different information to Four. So they kind of end up at loggerheads because Four is like, why do you trust David? And Tris is like, well, why do you trust Nita? Nita is pretty much a non-character in this film. She does the whole, you've been assigned to me, to Four, and then does this training with these drone things, which were actually pretty cool. That was another addition that I actually really liked. And then after that she's kind of just not there. Even when the weird stealing children thing is happening, Four's like, why? And she's just like, it's the thing that we do. She's such an important character. So is Matthew. Matthew is my favourite character in Allegiant because he's just such a fanboy. He's like, oh, that choosing ceremony when Caleb chose Erudite and then you chose Dauntless. Oh, I didn't see that one coming. In this, he's just some kind of creepy assistant who just follows her everywhere. And he's so important because Chris has so many conversations with him about how she's trying to adjust to this world and get used to the fact that she shouldn't look at people like as if they're erudite or they're Kanda or they're Amity. She needs to just look at them as people who haven't subscribed to those ideals that she's grown up in. And she finds out that her mum was from this outside world and volunteered to be put into this experiment. And Matthew gives her the diary and journal entries and letters that Natalie sent to David, and it's a way for Tris to connect to her mother. And also you find out about how David was pretty much in love with Natalie. And for me personally, what I get from the book in David's obsession with Tris is the fact that he sees her as the ultimate pure human because a lot of her genes are from Natalie. And Natalie betrayed him in a sense because she was meant to go to Erudite and try and control Erudite and take everything down from there to kind of rebuild everything, but she ended up falling in love and chose abnegation to be with the person she fell in love with, who was Tris and Caleb's dad. But none of that is mentioned at all. It just seems that he's a bit power hungry, but at the same time David is completely laid back by everything. Instead of this diary element from Natalie that's given by Matthew, we get memory tabs which David gives to Tris, which allows Tris to put them on the side of her head like this, and she can relive some of her mother's memories from being in the fringe as if she is her mother. She obviously cannot interact with them and change everything because she's just viewing memories. Kind of like in Harry Potter when they're able to be in the memories but they're not actually in the memories. It just didn't make sense, and it just created such a big disconnect because it was horrible what happened in Divergent. In the space of like a few minutes, she lost both her mom and her dad, and this is a way for her to work out her identity, and she's able to adjust a lot more to the world, knowing that her mum wasn't from within the city. In terms of accuracy, the only thing that I felt that was portrayed really well was the trial scenes. Now the movie opens with the trial scenes, which I felt was really good because there's a lot of boring build up to that in the books. And it also kind of sets the idea for the film that, you know, Janine is gone, you know, now there's some kind of rebellion going on, we have to kill everyone who had anything to do with her. Evelyn was a letdown for me as well. I love Evelyn in the books, especially in Allegiant, because she's just scared. She's the same as Janine was. She's just absolutely terrified of what could be on the other side of the wall, so she tries to create this dictatorship of why it should be good to stay within the city and not go outside. So all of these trials happen, and the only bit when I had any flicker of emotion for any character whatsoever in this was when Tris is stood on this balcony thing watching all of the trials take place, and she looks across and she sees this kind of cage thing, and Caleb's in it and he's all tied up, and he's like calling out to her, you know, Tris, please don't let them kill me. I don't like Caleb at all, but even like him in this short moment I actually felt something for, and it was the only point when I felt any kind of emotion other than anger when watching this film. The memory serum incorporation in this was just an absolute mess, really. Peter is secretly working for David and goes to Evelyn and goes, I have something that can help you win this war that's going on between Evelyn and Joanna, the leader of Amity, who is leading the Allegiant. He gives her this tube thing with a mask on it and says, only use it on someone you really hate. And then we cut to this scene where Marcus is there and she uses it on Marcus, and I thought it was going to be the death serum, but it wasn't. And that kind of annoyed me because the whole point, in a really ridiculous and annoying and frustrating way in the books, is that she lets him live despite everything that he's done to her son in the past. She lets him live because she's like, you need to live with what you've done. Also, at the end of the film, when the memory serum gets detonated to like the whole city, it didn't seem to affect anyone. I mean, it was like floating kind of on the ground, but nobody had gas masks and everyone was inhaling it, but everyone seemed absolutely fine. Like there was this bit where Caleb pushes this guy into this memory serum and it's like this far away from him and he doesn't seem to be affected by it at all. Like any sort of changes in the air, it could probably take you a few seconds before it starts to affect you, but everyone just seemed fine by it. Like you've got Tris and Four outside of the room it's been detonated in, and they see the smoke coming in and they're just fine with it. Also, I love how stupid Evelyn was in the fact that she didn't realise that it would affect everyone. Like she was told that it would only affect the people that were against her, but it's like, do your own people, the ones that are on your side, have any protection from this? She seemed so shocked and was like, oh no, what have I done? When this gas detonated to the whole city. And then Peter was trapped in this room and it started coming up through the vents in the room. And obviously he then realises that he's also been set up and that David is just trying to like wipe everyone out. And even then, it's like he manages to get out, but surely he would have been affected by that. I mean, it's a closed space. You're likely to be affected by it quicker if it is a confined space. Also, why would you have the memory serum, which you use to reset an experiment when it's gone a bit too wrong and have the place that you have to detonate it inside the city. That means that whenever the Bureau decides they're going to reset the experiment, someone has to go inside the city to do that. Surely you would have it so that you could detonate it from the Bureau. Like I said, I am going to go and see Ascendant when that comes out next year, more for completion's sake than anything, and also to see where it's actually gonna go from here. They could probably change the entire ending and it wouldn't even surprise me at this point. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below about this. What did you think about it? Let me know, because I'm actually really interested to hear people's thoughts on this. I will be back for another video soon. Bye!